Right, well the aim of today's tutorial is to produce a flag that's blowing in the wind. This is going to be an animated flag. It won't be a US flag, it's going to be a European flag. And we're going to have it blowing in the wind and hopefully disintegrating as well. I'm not sure if the disintegrating part's going to work because I've never tried it, but we'll see. So, if we look at what we've got a flagpole, we've got a couple of clips that hold the flag on, and we've got some kind of rope arrangement, and there's a finial, as it's called, at the top of the pole. And this is what we need to model. I've got a European flag that I've got in from simple Google images. I've also got I've also got a panorama of a stormy sky. Let's just get down to it. I've got an awful lot of images in here. Sky stormy panorama, that's the one. So I've got this, and that's quite a large image, and what I'm going to do is, as the flag's blowing, I'm going to scroll this past, but you won't see any of the land because it's only really the sky that we're going to see, and that'll give the impression of wind as well as the fact that the flag's fluttering. So, wish me luck. So here we go. First thing to do is to get rid of our cube. Do that by pressing X, and as you can see, as normal, I've got the screen keys in the corner so you can see what I've pressed. Well, on most of Blender you can. So we're going to add in a cylinder, which is going to be our flagpole. Big surprise. Reasonable number of vertices because we're going to be close, and 32 will be fine. Let's just move that so there's someone near the middle. And naturally we want it to be long and thin. So the first thing I'm going to do is S for scale. I'm going to scale it down pretty thin, and then I'm going to scale it up lengthwise using the handle. So we've got a reasonable length of flagpole. It doesn't have to be huge because we're never going to see the bottom of it. We're only ever going to see the top. Then we're going to go into edit mode. Actually I'm not. First thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put this finial in as a sphere because that's going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to snap cursor to selected, so that's got the 3D cursor, which is the little red and white thing, to center on the pole, and I'm going to add in a UV sphere. We don't really need 32 segments, but there's not going to be a lot in this scene, so we might as well just live with it. I'm going to scale that down, and I'm going to move it. So that's moved up to there. And the next thing I'm going to do is it's a new thing. I'm going to join the flagpole to the sphere, and then we'll play around at joining the two things together. So I'm going to go into there, and I'm going to rename cylinder to flagpole. And I'm going to select the sphere first, then the cylinder, and I'm going to join them, and then they all become one object. So if I go into edit mode, I can edit any vertices on that object, and that naturally enough is exactly what I'm doing. So view, line view, line view selected, view selected. That's what we want. Actually we only want to see the top, so I'm just going to select one vertex up there, and we'll do that again. That's better. So now we can see what we're doing. And we know we've got a face at the top of the flagpole. We're never actually going to see that. But what we want to do is we want to extrude this down to form like a pretty shape. In order to do that, first I'm going to delete this lot from the center here. So I'm going to hit C, which gives me a selection circle. I'm going to size it using the mouse wheel so that I can clip. Well, it's got too much. Escape to get rid of it. A to deselect. C again. This time I'll be a bit more careful. There we go. That's what we want. And I'm going to get rid of that little lot. So escape, X, delete vertices, and you can see what we've got. We've now got a sphere with a hole in it. So if I shift and select, so I've got two adjacent vertices selected, I can now go to the selection menu and select edge loop. And that lets me select the whole thing. Very good. Now I'm going to hit E for extrude. I'm going to escape so that I've got some control over it. I'm going to move it down, and if you remember our reference image, I've shut it down, never mind. If you remember our reference image, there we've actually got a little bar and we've got a top that comes over, and so we've got to try and make something a little bit similar to that. And we're going to make that out of this, but I want to make it a little bit more graceful. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to have that bar come in, like so. E again, escape, move it down, and now I'm going to make a cap that goes over the top of here. So that's going to be E again, escape, and this time I'm just going to scale it, S for scale, and the cap on that came out quite a long way. And E again, and escape, and I'm going to bring that down just a little way. Now I could use the blend modifier for this, but a modifier called bevel for this, but it can be a bit tricky if you've got lots of different types of things on an object, so I'm not going to. So I've just made a bevel on the top there. E again, and I'm going to bring that down. I hit escape actually first and use this. The reason I'm hitting escape is that you can't always tell which way it's going in 3D otherwise. If you don't use the handles or use the keyboard and use G, Z in this case. So extrude again, escape. I'm going to go down a bit to put a bevel on the bottom. S for scale. E again, escape, and this time just S for scale because I'm going to close it up so it's not quite at the flagpole. And then E again, escape, and I'm going to take it up inside just in case we see any of it. Right, so there we go. That's our flagpole. That was quite painless, wasn't it? And I'm going to give the flagpole, I'm going to give it two materials, because the top here I'm going to make metal, but the flagpole itself, although on our example it was metal, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it just white wood. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go into object mode, and I'm going to give it a material. Incidentally, I'm not going to use cycles here. Cycles on my machine takes a long time. I'm going to use the internal render. If you know how to use cycles, that's fine, you can use cycles. And we want the new material. It's white already, which is a good start. I'm going to make it smooth shading, that's good. Get rid of all those nasty faces you see. So there we go. Specular, yeah, it's going to have some specular intensity, but you know what else it's going to have? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put a texture on there that's just going to give it some grot, if you like. I'm going to use what's called a grunge texture. So, image, and this is just a texture that adds some dirt to something. Okay, so I'm going to open it. I'm going to find the image. I've got a few different ones with G for grunge. There you go, I've got grunge scratches, grunge glass, grunges, hammered metal, and so on. Can I remember what that one is? Yeah, I think actually that's a useful one. Yeah, that's this one, which is absolutely fine for what we want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a tube projection. Coordinates generated, that's fine. I'm not going to I want to see both. At the moment we're taking over the colour, which isn't really necessarily what I want. So I'm going to take that down. I'm going to have it affect the colour, but not a huge amount. I'm going to have it affect the normal, but only a tiny amount, 0.1 or something like that. What the hell? 0.1. There we go. So we can't really see the effect on now. Maybe I'll need to take that up a little bit. Take this up a little bit. Now we can see a little bit of an effect, and it'll just produce a bit of uneven colour on the flagpole, because these things are never an even colour. Okay. And so the next thing we want is we want the material for the knob here at the top. So I'm going to go back into edit mode, and I'm going to use another selection feature here, which is one select more. Now I could do control numpad plus, but I can't. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have face selection only, and I'm going to turn on selection for things that aren't visible. So this will select on the rear as well. I'm going to B for box. Bang. So that, as you can see, that's selected all of the vertices all the way around except for those, which I must have missed the centres on. So we'll do that again. B for box down here. That's fine. And we want really to select these faces here. Select more. And that's selected our flagpole as well, which we didn't want to do. So, Control Z. I'm just going to have to do this C for a circle. I'm just going to have to try and keep a steady hand. And escape to get out of the select mode. C for circle again. And escape. And just that last little bit. C for circle. Right, that'll do. So I'm going to, before I forget, escape. I'm going to turn that off. Right, so that's just got all the bits that are going to be metal. And we're going to go back into object mode because it won't let us do assigning without it. Go into materials. We're going to add a new material. So now we've got material 2, we've got material 1. Material 2 at the moment is not assigned to anything. So you can see that it's different because the colours, it's going to be a slightly grey. Specular still is fine. Actually I want to make it a bluey sort of grey. Specular is fine. Now that. What else do we want to do? I want to give it a bit of mirror to make it look metallic, but not a lot. It's going to mirror a slightly bluish colour. So about that much. And we're going to make it, we're going to drop down the gloss so it's not going to be quite fully glossy. Okay. Now, if you remember, we had all that little lot. Selected. So now we go into the edit mode and we hit assign. And what that does is it assigns a new material, and you can see it's just changed colour to all the bits that are selected. And now I'm just going to make sure I deselect everything. And you can see what this new material is going to be like. Okay. Now at the moment that's a bit too clean. Like the flagpole, I want it to be a bit grungy. So I'm going to add another texture on. It's going to be an image. And there's one that I always use for metals. It works really, really well. And I'm going to use that on here. Where are we? It's that one, grunge scratches. As you can see, what that actually is, that's a piece of beaten up brass. But I want to take the brass colour out. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go into colours, saturation, whack right the way down. So now it's got no colour, it's just black and white. And I'm going to drop the colour down a bit so it's not affecting it that much. I'm going to go normal. I'm going to give it something like just under 0.1 again. And I'm going to make it a spherical projection because most of it really is a sphere. I could usually unwrap it and do it exactly, but I'm not going to. That would just be too much. And at the moment it's reflecting a bit too much, I think, so I need to go into materials and turn the reflection down to about maybe that. Yeah, that's a bit better. That is a bit better. So that's our flagpole. Now, if I was doing this for a complete project, I'd also model a bit of rope. Am I going to do that? No, I don't think I'm going to worry. Also, it's going to be so small, we're not really going to see the clips, so I'm going to leave them out as well. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to add in my flag. Let me just go back into object mode. Bung it somewhere near the middle. And I'm going to use import images as planes. Now if you haven't got that enabled on your standard setup, you can go into user preferences, add-ons, and in the search box up here just type images, and you see you've got import export images as planes, and that is ticked, and on yours it probably won't be, so just tick it, and then when you tick it just close it, and you'll find that when you go to the file menu and you've got import, you've got images as planes. So that's what we're going to do. There we go. Now I've got a European flag and I've slightly altered this. I'll show you what I've done with it. Flag EU, that's the one. to stand it up on end. Oh gosh, that's a bit small. I'm going to scale it up. And what's going to look right? About like that, I suspect. That's good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to subdivide this, because when we come to do a cloth simulation with it, as if you've actually seen my simple cloth simulation video, then you will note that you actually need quite a few vertices to get it to work properly. So, I'm going to go into edit mode. We're going to hit subdivide 3, 4, 5, 6. Because this is quite important. This is a central thing in our scene. If we're going to spend any vertices anywhere, then this is where we need to spend them. Okay. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it now to pull those corners in. But first I'm going to make sure it's the right way around. Let's go into object mode, and if I look at rendered, I don't see anything because there's no light. That's clever. Okay. So I need to sort out my lighting. And I'm going to make it a spotlight, funnily enough. I nearly always use spotlights instead of the sun. I find they're a lot more controllable and you can get nice effects with them, all this sort of thing. Right, and I'm going to set it with an energy of 2 for the moment. God knows what it will end up as, but it's going to be 2 for the moment. Right, let's have another look. There you go. You can see our EU flag is in fact the right way around. Now, what I've actually done to it, you can also see that we've got too much texturing on our texture there, so I'm going to change that. But what I did in the image editing program is I added in this white stripe here, because flags always have it, and I also added in a little darker bit towards the back, and yeah, that's what we want. We're going to come out of there, we're going to go back into solid, and now we know it's the right way around. I can play around with these vertices, and it looks like I'm going to have to play around with some of the materials in a minute as well. Right, so edit mode. And what I want to do, I want to drag these onto the pole. Now, if to start with, I need to make sure that everything's in position, which it is. That's good. It's going to save me some problems. I'm going to hit the A key to deselect everything on the flag, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to turn on proportional editing, and it's going to be sphere, nearly always sphere that you use, and enable it. Now I'm going to just select there, change my handles to something that's more reasonable, and when I start moving it, you'll see I've got a circle, and that circle defines, as you can see, how much of the mesh actually moves. And I want to move quite a lot of this mesh. I'm going to move it out to there, and I'm going to use a thing called pinning in a minute. When I actually do the flag render, and there we go. So that's all I need to do, and if I put back to render view again, you can see what we've got. We've now got that sort of a shape, which doesn't look terrific, but it gives me somewhere to pin these corners so that they don't move, and then the rest of the flag's going to move in the wind. Go back to solid. So that's the flag and that's the pole. We now need the wind, and the wind, we need to go into object mode, and I'm going to add force field. Force field is wind, and it's added it as usual. It's added it where the 3D cursor was before, and it doesn't really matter where the wind goes. One thing is it's invisible. It does matter which direction you point it in, and it's going to be pointing in the direction of the flag roughly, but I don't want it completely. I want it to go off to one side a bit, like so, and that will just give a wind direction like that. Let's have a look at that camera view. As you can see, we're nowhere near. Select it by right clicking the frame, G, and move the mouse, click and G and move the mouse. Now view top, and we need to move it further away from the pole, so something like that. There's lots of ways that you can move the camera around, and I use a combination of them. The other thing you can use, of course, is the physical settings, and I find those most useful for adjusting rotation. And I want to be kind of looking up at this flag, so I'm going to drop down. We want to be something like that. Other way. And I guess I'd better set up the render presets now, because I'm not going to have a huge render here. I'm not going to do 1080, I'm going to do 720. So it's 1280 by 720 render, because that will change the camera size slightly. And the camera itself, I'm going to use a preset. I nearly always use Canon C300. So there we go. That's going to be our camera view. The next thing we want is we want to extend the number of frames. I'm going to go 450 for this animation. Oops, someone at the door. Excuse me, just 1 second. Ah, that's better. What I want to know is why they always deliver to me. Anyway, right, so what we're going to do is we're going to activate the cloth simulator on this piece of cloth, and the way that we're going to do that is we need to actually pin these corners. Now, to do that, we go into edit mode, and what we want to do is select a few vertices right in the corner, and it has to be vertices, so I'm going to go into vertex selection, which is that one, and C for circle. I'm just going to nip a few in each corner. I've already got some on that corner, and they're going to be pinned. Now, in order to convert them, in order to pin them, we need to give them a name. We need to give them a vertex group. So we go to the mesh menu, and in here somewhere It's not in the mesh menu. Looks like they've taken it down. Well, there's your keyboard shortcut. I know what it is. I was still Control G, assign to a new group, and that's what we're going to do. So there we go. So now those should be assigned to a new group, and we can quite easily check that. If we go into the little triangle here, which is the data, you can see we've got vertex groups. I'm going to lock it just in case. I'm going to leave it as it is, I think. Right, so let's make that cloth. Cloth presets. Now, obviously flags are things that blow. I'm going to use silk again. I quite often end up using silk because none of the other ones seems to work very well. We're going to activate pinning, and we have a vertex group called group, and that's what we're going to use. Cloth collision, we want to make sure we've got self collision on. Now the next thing we need to do is set up our wind, which is here. We want quite a strong wind. We want something like, oh, I don't know, maybe 12, flow of maybe 8. I'm going to put some noise in there. That's okay. I'm going to have it as a tube. Something like that. Oops, that's wrong. So, let's have a look and see how that looks. We click on there, and we go into cloth cache. Start one in 250, we want to end it at 450. And we're going to bake it. Well, that's going to take a little while, so I'm not sure. Leave you. Right, now in order to get it to work properly, I had to make some changes. What a surprise. Most of which were to the wind. So our wind is now 95.4 strength, flow of 10, noise of 1, spherical fall off, power of 0, and that is the wind. Now the flag, in the cloth settings, I've actually turned up the effect of the wind to 10. This is under cloth field weights. So now if we go through, you can see it behaves as you'd expect a flag in a strong wind to behave. But I think that perhaps that is a little too staid. Let's just hit play so we can see the whole thing. There's not much turbulence in that, so I'm going to add in a little bit of turbulence and then rebake it. And the way that you do that is select this object, snap cursor to selected, and I'm going to add another force field. This one, however, is called turbulence, and this affects a point, which is why I put it down there. So I'm going to actually put that point right there on the flag, and on the physics tab, the force field, the strength, the size and the flow. And the size is going to be not a lot, maybe 1.8 or something. Strength is going to be a reasonable amount. I'm going to put a bit of noise in there, maybe 0.5. And it's not global, we want it to be local, because we want it all to be there. The sphere, all the rest of it is the same, and we'll bake that and see what that's like now. So we'll go to our flag, and under cloth cache we've got a free bake, so we'll get rid of the bake and we'll rebake it, and I'll see you when it's done. Right, that's a bit better. I've now got a bit more interesting movement in the flag. So the next thing to do is to double check the materials on it, and in order to do that we'll render it, camera, and I'm going to do a trial render, and you can see that there's things that I need to do. First thing I need to do is I need to make this flag a smooth render. I need to do something about the texture on the flagpole. So what am I going to do first? So we've already got that selected, so that's going to be smooth shading, and I may very well also add in a subdivision surface. So I'm going to add modifier, subdivision surface, and that wants to be at the top, so I'm moving that. Sometimes it actually matters. Don't know why I've got collision on there, it doesn't need it. Aha! So maybe I need to, yeah, that'll be okay. Don't know why I've got collision on there, it doesn't need it, I'll take that off. Right, so that's going to sort that out. Now we've got the flagpole, and it's the first material that I want, which is the flagpole material itself. I'm going to go into the texture, and I need to take this down, right down 0.05 maybe, and we'll render that again and see what happens. We've still got, right, what happens if I take the geometry off? Yeah, so the problem is definitely geometry. So 0.001 maybe. And yeah, that's okay. I think some of it's the colour as well. Render image. .0001. Now we've lost it entirely. 0.0005. That'll do. That's fine. And we want to apply the same sort of thing to the other material, because it looks like we've got too much on there as well. So we'll Go to the metallic material, go to its texture, 0.0005, render image. That's kind of better. That's kind of better. And the other thing we want to do is we want to knock out the specular reflection on the flag. Render, show, hide, render view. And I'm going to sort the lighting out as well. So take that right the way down to practically nothing. Drop that a little bit as well actually. If there is any specular it's going to be blue. Right. Now what happens if we render that? That's much better. That is much better. And that's the kind of view that we've got in the camera of it, which is good enough. Now, some way into the video, probably around about frame 140, I'm going to try and make this flag fall apart. Now you'll have to bear with me because I'm not 100% sure if this will work on a simulated flag, but it should do. I don't see any reason why not. So we'll show hide render view, and what we want to do is, with that selected, object, quick effects, quick explode, like so. Now we're not going to make the whole thing go, which this quick explode actually would do. I shall show you in a second, assuming that it actually works. It works by particle system. So we've got 100. I want lots of little bits, so maybe 500. And it's got start 140, end 140. We don't want that. We want it to end at around about, let me see, 400. That will do. Lifetime of the particles we want high. Emit from faces, doesn't care, don't care about any of that. We can leave that as it is for the moment. Velocity, normal 1, I'm going to take that down to 0, because the wind is going to blow it away. We'll allow them to rotate. We'll allow it to be dynamic rotation. And that's all we actually need. So, if we hit play, you can see bits are falling off and bits are flying away. And that's kind of what I wanted. So what I want is I want the flag to disintegrate. But, a couple of things. First of all, those bits are too big. So I do actually need to increase the number of particles on the particle system. I'm going to make that 700, and we'll go back to just before it started and we'll run that again and we'll have another look. Yeah, that looks okay. That's that sort of thing. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to add another mesh group onto there, and the reason for that is what I want to happen is I want this end of the flag to be completely gone and maybe just a few holes in here. Okay, so if I go into edit mode again, A to deselect, C, circle, drop the size of that right the way down. So what I'm doing is I'm designing the holes. I'm designing what it's eventually going to be, this flag, what it's going to disintegrate into, which quite fun, I guess. And all these areas are going to be what actually disintegrates. And that will do, I think, something like that. So, now we want to Control G. We want to get rid of our selection circle first. Hitting Escape, then Control G. That's assigned to new group. So there should now, if we look in there, there'll be two groups. Be group 01. And we'll lock that off. And if we go into here, into particle systems, and somewhere down here, there should be a vertex group setting. There we go. Now its density, we want group 01. So now, if I go back into object mode, and we should see that we've got a preference for where those particles come from. And there we go, we can see some coming off. There's one anyway. See the flag disintegrate slowly. And it's totally ignored the vertex group. See, I knew something like this might happen. I knew something like this might happen because I've never actually tried this with a cloth simulation before. And now the whole flag's gone. Actually, that might be an okay effect. I think maybe I've got too many. Let's try back to 100. Let's try that again. And that's better. Now it seems to be working. Right. Let's try dropping that number down again. Let's try it to 70. I think that I need to go the other way. Maybe 104, not 14, maybe 140 would be the way to go. too much of the flag disappearing. I need some way to control it. At the moment it's just not happening. It might be because I haven't gone back to the complete start. I've known that to screw things up before, so let's try that. Right, now I'm going to pause this and I shall play around with it and I'll come back to you with the answer. And I've got the answer. Well, vertex groups indeed will not work with the cloth simulator when you do explode. I knew there was going to be a surprise, there always is. So the key thing to do is to make it fairly a high number of bits that come off the flag, but set the end of it way beyond the end of the animation. And what that means is that you'll get lots of little bits, which is what I wanted, because there's a high number in here, but you won't ever see all of them come off. So if I, for example, click on a few, you'll see that's the end. So that's as disintegrated as it gets. Now if I wanted it to be a bit more disintegrated than that, which I guess I do, I can hit 1900, a few more bits will come off. So 100, a few more bits will come off by the time it gets there. So that would do. I mean, that's good enough, isn't it? It's good enough for anyone. So now what we want is to get the lighting right. So I'm going to render this as it is there. I'm going to go to our spotlight, because at the moment there's not enough light on the scene, obviously, and it wants to come from slightly above. So show hide render view. Let's click on our spotlight. We're going to go up. We're going to go out that way a bit, and I'm going to change the lamp settings. Energy is going to be about 5. Make it slightly yellow, only very slightly. The shadows I'm going to make slightly blue. It's only slightly, not that much. Sort of an indicator colour. Blue shadows always look good on outdoor subjects. Something I learnt as an artist quite earlier on. I'm going to take the size of the spot up, blend up a bit. Not that that's going to make a lot of difference in this case, but hey, the distance I'm going to take right the way up, because we want it to illuminate the whole scene really. Well, just the flagpole really, but hey, there we go. So that should be about that. Now soft size I'm going to take to 3, bump that up to 5 samples, which will make it look a bit better. I'm going to re-render it, and hopefully we should see it looks a little bit better, or not. Aha! need far more energy now we've spread the spotlight out. So maybe we need to go up to 20. Render image. And there we go. That is absolutely fine for the moment. We might need to change the coloration of the light, but until we've got the background in, can't really see that. So that's the next thing to do. We're going to have our sky that whizzes past the flag, and it's going to be going obviously in that sort of a direction. So we're going to go up to import images as planes again. This time it's sky something. Sky Stormy Panorama, that's the one. And we want to stand it on end, so that's X90. I'm going to rotate it around, so we want it to be opposite to the camera. We're going to scale it up a lot, like so. View camera. In fact, we can scale it down a bit from there. We're going to move it. And just so the perspective of the clouds doesn't look odd, I'm going to rotate it. So the camera's slightly rotated. So I want it to come and face the camera a bit more. Something like that will do fine. Okay, so now if we actually want it to move that way, so it's going to be, yeah, so view top, you see that's where it is at the moment. I'm going to make it go that way a bit. View camera, and I'm going to turn on texture, which will show me exactly what is in there. So that's what I've actually got. What I've got is a piece of land. I don't want that piece of land, so I'm going to move it so I can't see that piece of land. Like so. And that's a good start point. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this, so I'm going to insert a keyframe, and we just want location. Okay, and now at the other end of our animation, we're going to have it moved that way. So maybe something like that. You don't want to move it too far, otherwise it's going to look bogus. It's going to look like the wind's doing about 900 miles an hour. But we want to get some visible movement in there. So insert location, and then I'm going to check to make sure what we can see. For some reason we can no longer see it. Oh, I know why. I need to make it shadeless. Bing. It's better. Otherwise it's reliant on picking up the light, and if the angle of it changes, suddenly you won't be able to see it anymore. So remember, if you're using something as a background, make it shadeless. Or the other thing you can do is you can take the intensities down and then turn up emit to 1. But shadeless works better if you can get away with it, then nothing will cast a shadow on it. or anything. View camera. So we can see that the clouds move along as the animation progresses. So if I choose a point in the middle, I'm going to render image there. And I think our light is going to be in the wrong place, because it's pretty damn obvious really that the light is over here. So our light wants to be coming from somewhere in front and to the right, maybe about there, and we need to make the flag slightly translucent in order to pick that up, and we're going to need probably a hemi in here to actually illuminate the flag itself slightly. In actual fact, just putting the hemi in would probably do, but let's go back to solid again. It's a bit quicker. Right, so that's where our light is. At the moment, that's actually not a very good position for it, because we want it probably around about there, shining in that direction. But let's try this thing. So the light is kind of shining in that direction. If we take our cloth material and we give it transparency on. We want translucency, and we're going to whack that up quite a bit, and what happens? Look, that's better. It's looking almost good. In fact, I think that is pretty good. And what we'll do is we will put a bit of transparency on there, just a bit. See what happens. See if we can make it. Oh, ray trace, don't we? Let's try again. Because what I want is to get the effect of kind of an almost, it's not a see-through cloth, a flag, but I want to get the effect of some light shining through it somehow. Oh, I know what's happened. Hang on 1 second here. We've got the explode fade on here. We can take that off. Get rid of it. Don't want that. And now it will render with a bit of transparency in it. Yeah, that's better. Phew. Right. We don't want that too much transparency, however. So we'll take it up there. And that's still a bit much, isn't it? Try it again. That'll do, I think. Maybe a little bit less. we want to go back up to 0.117, and we want to change the colour of our light a bit because this is a very yellow light. So we'll go to our lamp, we're going to make it a lot more yellow, slightly orange. In fact, I'll probably get rid of that now. That's better. So now you've got it picking up the light. But now the flag's too transparent again. You can see that the whole of this thing, we're going to take the transparency off and just leave the translucency on now, because it will probably work now. You can see all of this thing with Blender, it's all about messing around with settings. No, we do need the transparency. Let's see if said transparency does a better job for us in this case. Right, 0.956 or something like that. Let's try that one. And that's it. That's fine. You've just got a little tiny bit of stuff you can see through the flag. So that's great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to render this now. And so I'll see you when I've rendered it. And of course, no sooner do I start rendering than I see something else that I've missed. Right. So the first thing that I saw that I've missed is I really want to start it at frame 40, which is when the flag sort of settles down. So my animation is going to start from frame 40. The next thing I've missed is that when this background here moves, it's going to try and ease in and out, so it's going to move slowly, faster, then slowly. We don't want it to do that. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to select the backdrop, I'm going to go into graph editor, and there you can see you've got all your location and all that bollocks. It's there somewhere, chaps. There you go. And that's the ones that we're changing. You can see they've got these curves. We want to get rid of that. So under key there, interpolation mode, we want linear. You can see they're straight. And that's it. That's all we want to do. Thought I'd show you that before I went ahead and actually rendered it. Right, we've finished rendering, and that took around about an hour and a quarter. Here we go, so let's have a look and see what we've got. That's not bad, is it? That's not bad at all, really. The sky's moving a little bit fast. If I was to render it again, I'd slow the sky down. Well, if you've liked this tutorial, don't forget